try this at home, right?
Is it buzzing? Really? You take the high road and I'll take the low road.
And that's
Sounds
where we are.
like an old song, Dave Nichols. How are you?
Certainly does. I'm just fine.
It's been a long time coming. I've heard the name Dave Nichols for years and years, and my friend Jack Sabrin said, you got to go and interview this guy. He's a very colorful character, and he's done so many things, and so it finally came together. I called him on the phone, and we had a meeting of the minds.
Well, and it's nice to meet you, too.
We're down here in Malone on the low road. Actually, we're in Whippleville, which is way better than Malone.
Oh, gosh, yes.
I tell people who are not from this area about Whippleville, and they look at me like...
Well, we have our own post office, and there's at least 10 or 12 of us live here.
And I think all of them are here today in your shop.
It seems to be that way.
For those people who don't know who Dave Nichols is, he is a master craftsman. He's I learned a word today, Luthier.
Yes, it's an old word from people that used to build lutes, and over the years it changed to become a person that builds stringed instruments. So you don't have to just build lutes anymore. A luthier builds guitars, mandolins, violins, cellos, and anything that has strings on it.
Every day I learn how stupid I am. I've never heard that word applied to guitar making or mandolin making before in my life.
Well, I tell people I'm a luthier sometimes, and they think that means Lutheran. Others don't know what it means. You get a lot.
Or you're associated with the devil or
Something.
And just to let you know that the best laid plans of mice and men sometimes go awry. And we were starting to do our program, and we got developed a loud buzz in a microphone system. And Dave, being the jack of all trades, offered to cut the wire and resolder it, make it shorter, and see if we can find where the break is. When we first started doing this show with Calvin years ago, my hands fidgeted more than they do now. I spend a lot of time with my hands out of commission in my pockets so I don't twist the mic cords and break them. And we've gone through a few of those over the years. But I imagine you've been called upon to make many repairs of many kinds of things over the years.
Well, that's what we do. I was brought up with a father who had a workshop where if it was broke, we fixed it. Whatever it happened to be.
He was a boat builder too, huh?
Yeah, he was.
That wasn't right here, was it? That was...
No, that was in Louisville Landing is where we started before the Seaway. And then we moved back into a home that was between Messina and Waddington in the Louisville area.
I love it there.
Yeah.
Those people who watch this program often know that Kay and I and our family love to camp at Coles Creek, which is up the road, and you spent some time there as a youth, didn't you, when they were doing it?
I was a lifeguard there. I drove truck when we would be doing landscaping things, and I helped put the cement fireplace posts in, and that was our summer job when we were in high school.
Isn't that great?
And we worked there and worked at Barnhart Island at the beach there. Lifeguards when they didn't need us to do other things, and when they did, we were truck drivers or shovelers or whatever they needed.
Whatever they needed, that's great. I had not realized till I read about you that you had spent a lot of time in Waddington. Actually, when you got out of school, you had a house there?
Yeah, I moved back and built a house in Waddington.
So this part of your life and your career actually started there in Waddington then, right?
Yes, it did.
Are we talking what era now? 60s, 70s?
That would have been when I moved into Waddington in the late 60s, early 70s. I bought a house, an older house, downtown Waddington. And downtown Waddington is very similar to downtown Whippleville. It's not, if you haven't been to Waddington, it's not a big city, but it's a lot of nice people.
They have a lot of neat things there every year. They have reunions, and they used to have a blue water regatta there, and a lot of fun things right on the St. Lawrence River.
We had
some pretty neat homes there too.
Guess what? we're going to find another cable because that's one of those molded in plastic ones that guaranteed not to be fixable. So we'll see if I've got another end, which I probably do. There.
That'll work.
That's what the fixable variety looked like.
Aha!
Warm enough, yeah.
I should tell our viewers that we're recording this on Election Day 2004. I was going to park my car at the school in Ellenburg and out by the road, and Calvin reminded me that school was still in session. And for the last few years, I've been working as a crime victims advocate in the probation department, and it's a real pleasure for me to have Election Day off and Veterans Day off and Martin Luther King Day off and holidays year-round, but you don't honor those holidays. You just come right into the shop and do your thing. Don't
Holidays?
You? Yeah, holidays? Yeah, I know how that goes.
Well, I'm usually in the shop at by 7 o'clock in the morning, and today I went and voted early, which I'm happy to do. Have my voice heard, hopefully, and then I came back in, and it's been quite a few people in this morning so far.
I heard you entertained a few politicians along the way.
Oh yeah,
people stop in to say hello.
There's always people coming in. The door's open. That's our philosophy.
I noticed that. That's a good thing. You said something, and I can't remember if it was on camera a few minutes ago, that music transcends politics. Thank God that it does. And Louis Armstrong was one of my all-time idols.
Uh-huh.
And he did an album one time called Ambassador Satch.
Mm-hmm.
And he made several tours of Europe, and this one was just absolutely fabulous. And no matter what the politics were, around the Iron Curtain or both sides of Germany at that time, they loved him.
Well, we've got a lot of political signs out front, and it hasn't deterred any of the musician candidates
See how it is?
from coming in regardless of party.
Yeah. I imagine you have some pretty heated discussions here on various topics, including all kinds of things connected with music, though, huh?
Well, I don't know, spirited rather than heated, I guess is a better word.
Spirited? That's good.
Remember that confidence that we had in Dave just a few minutes ago,
Yep.
Gordy? I can fix that.
I can fix that, but I'm just wondering why the cable out of the mic has 3 prongs, and there was only 2 leading out of here, so I've got to look and see what they were. And it's all melted into plastic, so.
It's amazing how they encase everything in plastic now, isn't it?
This is a testament to our disposable society.
Yeah, it certainly is, isn't it?
Okay, ground.
Now, there is no cursing on Hometown Cable, Dave. So
Oh, ha ha.
keep in mind the camera's still running.
I would have failed miserably if I'd been doing it.
Looks like they're using a double ground, but I'm not sure.
We've been off for a couple minutes, Gordy, but we should point out there's been no cursing in between.
That's just amazing. It's been very calm in here.
Yeah.
Well, if you're going to curse, then you have to at least be creative, and I'm using most of my mind putting this
Oh,
together.
that's okay. That's your story, and you're sticking with it, huh?
That's it.
Okay.
I mean, I'd hate to have any non-creative person.
Uh-huh. So you figured out what that last Think there was another ground in there?
So I'm not sure.
Bet you we find out, huh?
Yeah. Well, model will either work or it won't. Okay, now before I button it together,
Well, plug it in and see what happens. I told you this was an informal television show on Hometown Cable. We tried to fix the mic cord. I don't know if I jury-rigged it somehow by twisting it, but the mic didn't work, and we're going to use the microphone on the camera, and it'll be just fine, David. We were talking about Lutherans and I don't know what all. I should mention the fact that your business here is called Custom Pearl, and there's a good reason for that.
there is?
We hope to discover that in the course of our program today, because you've been inlaying pearl into guitars and various other stringed instruments for about, what, 40 years?
Oh yeah, an easy 40 years. The name of the business is Custom Pearl Inlay, and what we do is we take seashell of different types. There's mother of pearl and abalone and paua and a lot of different species of shell that we use, and we cut very fancy designs out of them and put them in wood. And the wood parts of the guitar, or like a fingerboard or a violin, we do fingerboards on those. And we border instruments in this fancy shell, and we do the inlay for a lot of the large builders like Martin Guitars and Gibson and Fender. And we do a lot for the smaller individual Luthiers too. The people that are building 10 or 12 guitars a year use this for their pearl needs, because unless you do this every day, it's something that takes forever to do, and we can turn it out in a hurry.
It's amazing to me. I've never talked to anybody who did this kind of inlaying before, and I've read how you decided to do this. First of all, you built a guitar in high school, right?
Yeah, high school woodshop. I was 15 at the time, and I had a high school woodshop teacher that had a sense of humor, and
Thank God they do.
Yeah, he allowed us how, if I could convince him that I had done enough planning and tell him how I was going to do it, that he would help me build a guitar. But he had never built a guitar, and I had never built a guitar. Well, I took a couple of them apart, sadly, and we had it pretty well figured out what we were going to do. So I came up with a guitar that was playable. I mean, I can't say much more for it than playable, but it was 6 strings, and we could make a little music on it, and he was tickled and I was tickled. And that was the first one of many. And after I got where I could build at least a little bit reasonably, I wanted to make them fancy. And my background was that my father was a gunsmith, and we used to do engraving and inlay on guns. So I took...
Oh, that's where it came from. Okay, I gotcha.
I took that talent that my father had and transferred it into musical instruments.
Is it different?
Yes, it is different in some extent. On the guns we were usually engraving in metal, or we would inlay into the wooden stocks. But there's very little seashell inlay, and you don't get a chance to do the artwork and use all of the expression I can on an instrument.
So it was kind of a natural progression, though.
Yes, it was.
But do you still do guns?
Oh, I'm a licensed gunsmith.
Are you really? Is there anything you haven't tried, David?
I never was much at ballet.
No, nor was I. Or inlay either. I often wonder, and I've looked at hundreds and hundreds of pictures, photographs of guitars that you've done, and this immense talent blows me away.
Excuse me.
And I wonder if you ever get tired of doing peacocks.
Well, I don't do a lot of peacocks.
You've done some.
Oh, yes.
I know you have. I've
yes,
seen pictures
yes,
of them.
I have, but every day is something different in here. There's the bread and butter inlays that we do all the time, the snowflakes and the standards. But I still get a lot of chance to express myself. And that's fun.
Do people, now when, you got a lot of work from Martin, right?
Yes, that's an everyday thing.
Somebody goes to Martin and says do they have a design all planned? Or do they say you do it the way you want to do it?
Martin has a custom shop. And the way that works is, first I get a drink of water so that I don't cough. And
We stop for a moment. Dave had a choking spree, but he's all right now.
It's that time of the year where
Oh, boy.
I think I've got a cold.
I pal around with Calvin all the time, and he does a lot of that stuff. It's normally pollen that gets to him. So anyway, we're talking about
Inlays.
Inlays.
Here's what happens. Martin Guitars, we'll take that as an example. They sell guitars in a lot of places. You can buy a Martin guitar in Plattsburgh. You can buy one at Dick's Country Store. You can buy one here. If you go into any Martin dealer and you say, I would like to order a special Martin guitar, that dealer calls the factory, relays the order to the factory. The factory calls me and says, can you do whatever it is this person wants? They want a picture of their mother, they want, it doesn't matter, because we do wildlife themes, religious themes, love themes, vines, flowers, it doesn't matter.
That wasn't a true story about the guy that wanted a picture of his girlfriend on there, but he just broken up and
That was a true
he
story.
wanted to make it extra fat. Come on, that wasn't
No,
real.
it really was.
I read that to Calvin on the way down here today, and he almost drove off the road.
No, I was in the one you're talking about, I was doing a guitar for a fellow from Texas, and we had spent a month back and forth with me refining inlay work, or actually the art for the inlay work. He wanted his girlfriend's picture on this, and she was a very, very pretty girl, and I'd gotten the inlay down to where it represented the person, and we're talking one-dimensional art here with the saw cuts and the engraving lines, and it was a pretty good likeness. And once we got into this far enough where he'd already committed his money, they broke up, and he says, well, can you make her fat at least? And we added a few curves to the picture.
That's amazing.
But that was one of the joke ones. I mean, I've done the funniest inlay to me was the time that I inlaid Tex Rabinowitz, and it just seemed to be going two directions. But that, you get all kinds of names that you put on, and I will inlay practically anything. I have some standards, but we do inlays for ZZ Top, where we've done all sorts of different themes on electric guitars for them. And we did one, the last one I did was a tangled barbed wire fence down a fingerboard. And I mean, it's
kidding.
just
What a
all
great
sorts of-
idea. With people's names and
Oh,
initials, and
names,
sometimes the
initials,
initials are
Westerns,
cleverly hidden in the design.
Whenever I do anything, we usually keep a copy of the artwork, and people come in. I've got literally thousands of patterns that you could look at and say, I want something in this direction, or we can pick if I get a chance to deal with a person individually, I can be sure to keep them happy because I can slant the artwork to be what they want. And for the people that have just gone to the dealer and ordered a custom Martin, I follow right to the letter of what they've ordered, because that's just them. What happens a lot of times is people will be collecting guitars or ordering a special one. They'll go through the dealer, go through Martin, and then find out where the inlay was actually done, and come back and say, wouldn't it be, or can you just take my existing guitar and do this? And the answer is yes. And can we cut out all the middlemen? And the answer is yes. Because I don't care whether I'm inlaying for Martin guitars or for an individual, I charge the same price. And of course everybody along the line marks up the work as they go, so if they get here rather than there, it's cheaper for them.
So you don't have an exclusive contract with Martin you have an exclusive contract to do all their work, but they don't cut you out of doing whatever
No.
you want to do.
No, I am an independent business, and we can do whatever it is that we want to do. I don't put Martin or Gibson or Fender name on a guitar that isn't. I mean, we're not in the process of making forgeries, but we will inlay pretty much anything.
But you obviously love to talk about what you do.
Of
You
course.
obviously love to teach other people. And so I've read that you run all kinds of classes throughout the year.
Well, one of the reasons we have background noise is at the moment I've got 4 people on the other side of another room of the shop, and there's a fellow taking an inlay course, and actually there's two people doing inlay, and a fellow that built a guitar before who came back to do some more work on it. And I run week-long seminars where you come in on a Monday and leave Friday playing your guitar that you built.
That's neat.
And it is fun. I mean, that is an eye-opener, and people come in here that have never done any woodworking and walk out playing an instrument. And all you have to have is the desire, and we can teach people to do that.
So you teach different kinds of courses, just the guitar building, or?
We teach just inlay, and then just guitar building, and we teach mandolin construction. But it's a Monday to Friday, real intensive, and you're in a production shop where there's always the production going on, plus whatever you're doing. So you get to either do and learn how to do inlay while watching a whole total picture of inlay, or to build a guitar while seeing somebody else's guitar being built or inlaid, and it's a fun time.
It looks like an awful lot of fun, and you've done these classes for years.
Yes, I have.
So there are a lot of people out there playing guitars that they made here or learning
Yep.
and plying the trade.
Yep.
Have you ever actually been so good at teaching a person inlay that they ran a little competition with you, or?
Yes, I have, and I'm happy for it. I have pretty much a monopoly in this business. There are
I haven't read
in
about
the
more than-
United States, there are 5, I believe, people doing inlay on a commercial scale. And
Wow.
I am the only one that is doing hand inlay exclusively. The other boys are all doing computer machinery inlay, where they want orders of 100 or more, and they set up computer-controlled machinery to do the inlay. And I'm a one-off person. Our joke is that we have a minimum order of 1.
Yeah, I know, I read that.
And I can happily put a name in a guitar and do the one and make my money on that one and not have all the programming time in a machine to do it. And because of that, I have all the work I can handle. And it's a happy experience to come in every morning and have work lined up in front of you. Now, the people that I've taught, one comes to mind. I used to do all of the inlay for Langeron Guitars, a guitar builder in Michigan. And he builds a couple hundred guitars a year. It's a small builder, but still, reasonable output. And the fellow that came to take the inlay course, his sister worked for Langeron Guitars. They wanted their own in-house inlay artist. Well, it doesn't bother me to lose the customer for the inlay because I'm still selling them all the shell. And if I teach somebody how to do something, I am the resource to buy the raw materials from. So it all works out for me. We sell all of the different kinds of seashell that has been processed into shell blanks. That is, the shell as it is from the ocean isn't much usable. You have to get it processed down into little squares that are uniform thickness to be able to cut a design out of them. And I can show you, examples of that shell and the different kinds of things that we do. But there are 3 of us that have been in this business since I can remember. There's a fellow from California, Chuck Erickson, who has been a shell supplier since the 60s. Larry Seifel, who used to do the same thing I'm doing, who inherited money when his parents passed away and went big-time computer business, computer inlay business, that is. And myself, and the 3 of us have pretty much pioneered the industry.
Is it growing now?
Oh yes, the guitar market. In time, as soon as the stock market goes down and you can't put money in the bank and draw interest, you buy a high-end musical instrument. They always depreciate.
Who would ever know that?
Anybody that
ask you that
collects them.
question.
Anybody
Yeah.
that collects them.
I guess you're right.
Now, our guitars sell for a lot of money. And every year they are worth more than they were the year before. And it is truly phenomenal. Right now, Martin guitars, they have standard line guitars that are $100,000. I mean, that's pretty scary when you stop and think
Yeah,
of that
really.
kind of money. in a acoustic guitar but they're valued as art besides just instruments, and they appreciate a guitar. Right now, if you had a Martin guitar from the 30s, you could buy a house with it.
That's amazing.
It is truly amazing. I mean, that's the appreciation.
Every
That
now and then, I'm only a peripheral fan. I don't play guitar at all, but I'm interested in what you do and other guitars. And every once in a while, you'll see an old parlor guitar or something show up on the Antiques
yes,
Roadshow.
the roadshow.
And the guy will bring it in because his grandfather had it. And they'll tell him how much it's worth, and his
And it's
eyes
scary,
get
isn't
about this big. And I look at my wife and I say, "Can you believe that little parlor guitar is worth that kind of money?"
Well, a good example is, and I'm sticking with Martin guitars when I talk just because it's a recognizable name. If you have a Martin guitar that was built 1968 or earlier, it's those guitars, the best of the Martin guitars in that era, sold for $500 or $600, and they are worth $5,000 to $6,000 right now, and that's just the run-of-the-mill ones.
Not a bad investment.
That's for
You know,
sure.
we did a great show with Dick DeCoss way back when on the history of Orville Gibson, the mandolins, and his connection with the North Country. And I know you love mandolin. You play mandolin.
Yes, I do. And the things about Orville Gibson, Dick DeCoss and I have been friends forever, it seems. I was one of the administrators at the Psych Center in Ogdensburg State Hospital. And that's where Orville Gibson died. So we were kind of connected. I had looked at the records that he had been there. And in that era, the stigma of being in a mental institution was pretty great, so they would show the person as having passed away in the Ogdensburg Hospital rather than the Psych Center. But it was a really interesting thing. His family had him committed so that they could take over his resources.
Isn't that amazing and
And
tragic?
like most of us Luthiers, I would imagine he was a little eccentric. I mean, not that I am.
I love it. Oh gosh, but he was a character. We went
Yes,
down and
he
looked
was
at
a
the old
character.
home site, and
He
I
dressed flamboyantly. He built musical instruments from old furniture. He didn't follow in anybody's footsteps. He was right out
and
leading.
why should we?
And why should we? Right.
You know, the best thing, the kindest thing that Dick DeCoss will tell you about our experience down there is when we were at the Orville Gibson homestead. I slammed his hand in the car door when we were getting out. So he did a lot of hand behind him and moaning about the fact that he had to play that weekend.
He told me to keep my distance
He'll
from him.
never forget that day with Gordy Little, I'll tell you, out in the country.
But he was so polite. He said, "My hand is in the door. Can you
I
come
was
back and
walking
open the
away
door?"
and I could hear this low moan back in his head in the door, and I felt like a fool. But anyway,
You're not going to damage me, are you?
no, I won't, not at all, so you better treat me well.
I will.
Mandolin's better than guitars for you to play? Because I see, all the pictures I see of you are with a mandolin.
It's a story. Of course, I played guitar in a bluegrass band forever, and I don't know. You haven't gotten older yet, but when you do, arthritis sets in.
Thank you.
And I have arthritis in my shoulder, so reaching out for a guitar hurts. The mandolin, I can kind of hug myself and play, and I like to play mandolin. It's one of those things I can do it without thinking, and it's just, every once in a while in your life you find an instrument or something you can do that feels natural. And the mandolin to me is something where I don't think when I play it. I hear the music and it comes out.
And what would bluegrass be without the mandolin?
You couldn't.
I mean, you know, who are your idols in the mandolin? Flat and Scruggs?
Flat and Scruggs are, neither one of them played mandolin.
Oh,
But see, Flat and Scruggs you think of Flat and Scruggs as bluegrass. Lester Flatt played guitar, and Earl Scruggs played the banjo, and they had several good mandolin players with them over the years. But who was my idol? You'd expect me to say Bill Monroe, and yet I'm more of a David Grisman fan. I like the free form. My bluegrass leads a little toward jazz and a little toward folk. I play is going on in my mind rather than a set
That's
pattern.
good.
And I may never play the same song twice the same way. And I have that freedom with the mandolin. And the nice thing about bluegrass is that it does resemble jazz in that nobody expects me to play the same thing the same way every time. I have the flexibility when it comes time for the mandolin break to play what I'm feeling then, rather than here are notes. The differentiation there is like with fiddle tunes, people expect you to play exactly the fiddle tune, and they've been handed down from generations, and that's what preserved them. In bluegrass, it's all the improvisation and the fun and the spontaneity that kind of bring it together. When I'm playing fiddle tunes, I'll play them the way they're supposed to be the first time through. Then my next break, I may add or subtract a whole pile of notes. And it's like jazz in that here's the melody, I will drift around through it, and then bring it back at the end.
Let's talk about your band. I know during the summer you play a lot.
Well, the band is fun. We have just a little background noise going on while we get some new light bulbs.
That's good.
And my band is fun because I found a collection of people that are as far removed from reality as myself. Our guitar player is a psychology professor from Potsdam. He spent 20 years in a family band playing lounge lizard music. They played Holiday Inns, they played all over, and they played the popular things. He knows every chord that there is possible to play on a guitar and didn't know a capo existed. In bluegrass, the joke about bluegrass musicians are 3 chords and a capo. And a capo is the clamp you put on to be able to play in different keys. Well, he didn't know there was such a thing. He came to build a guitar here, and we got to be friends. And I admired his playing, and he couldn't figure out what it was I was doing, but he wanted to be part of it. So the two of us got together with a fellow, Jack McGowan from Canada, bass player, and we played as a trio a little bit, and then we were at a bluegrass festival, and we ran onto a banjo player that didn't own a capo and knew a whole lot of chords. He lives in Binghamton, and of course we drafted him. And last year, Jack McGowan, our bass player, passed away, so we found a girl from Ottawa that plays bass that is pretty good. And the thing about our band is we don't care what key we're in or anything else. And the musicians, they're all good enough to be able to play in a key that suits our voices, and we like to do 4-part harmony, and we have
great,
more
the
fun.
best.
We have just a
The
great
best. So what do
time.
you call yourselves?
Spare Change, David Nichols and Spare Change.
Doesn't that make sense?
It did to me. Our first album was called Drawing Interest.
I love it. With spare change, what
Yeah.
else? You know, Calvin asked me on the way up here if you had any relationship with the Nichols for whom Nickelville was named. Have you
If I
traced
do,
it?
it's distant enough so that I'm not aware of it.
Because, you know, I knew some Nichols families when I lived in that area many years ago, and it just dawned on me that you could be related. So you have just a passion for the whole ball of wax.
That I do. The reason that I enjoy the inlay is because it brings in so many musicians, and I get to work on really good instruments, and I get to play music every day.
But it's a legacy.
Yeah.
Those guitars, as you said before, are going to be around long after you and I are gone.
That they are.
And that artwork will far outlast you, and that's kind of neat.
One of the biggest things.
Let's stop for just a minute and put
Okay.
a new battery in, Dave.
You were asking me
Yeah, we got the battery.
if I realize the extent of how
Yeah,
long the
yeah,
art
yeah.
will last. And the biggest thing in my business is I try to make everything perfect because I know it's going to outlast me. When I do a guitar inlay, that'll be there when I'm gone. So everything I do, my philosophy has always been, this is the best that I can do now. I may be better in the future, I may not. But right now, you're going to see everything I do is the best of my ability. And that's what's carried this business. We've never done anything less than the best that we
How
can.
has it changed? Since you started doing inlay, Is it, or you do more complicated stuff now
I,
or
I do a
less?
lot more complicated stuff, and I keep refining the tools that I use.
Ah,
And one of the years back, I started to buy a Dremel tool, and you get a base set up for it, and find some sort of a cutter bit that may work. You scrounge from the dentist. You go anywhere you can to find things. And over the years, I have taken picked knowledge wherever I can, and I've gone from using make-do tools to tools specifically designed for what I want. We use the pneumatic miniature die grinders with the inlay bits that we're using are aerospace spin-off. They are micro miniature end mills that cut just unbelievably well. And all of the things that I'm touching are geared toward how well can I do this with today's machinery. The inlay that we're copying was done, the heyday of real great inlay was the late teens, 20s, and early 30s. And the stuff that we were seeing then was done with some pretty crude hand tools. And I have the advantage of we have the computer nowadays. If something I want's made in Germany, I can get it. It doesn't matter where it is out there in the world. I can find it, I can get it. And I can collaborate with some really, I've got my friends that are tool and die makers and musicians. And whenever I talk to a person on the phone, what do you do in real life? That's what we ask each other, And for me, this is real life. For them, guitars and playing and music are what's keeping them sane while they are, as I said, a tool and die maker or something. So I have collaborated with a couple of different people to design tools for guitar building. I have 2 or 3 nice tools that are specific to what we do that we now have a patent on, and I sell them.
Ooh,
so I sell the
nice.
materials, I sell the tools, I do the inlay.
it's a package.
Yes, it's a package deal.
Does it please you to see one of your guitars in a movie or on a big stage or a concert somewhere? Because I know you've had some of your guitars that show up in films from time to time and on the stage.
It's always a thrill. It's like anything you do in life that comes back bigger than you could imagine. I know when you say movies and things, I did a Spider-Man guitar for Aerosmith.
I heard about that. I read that to Calvin.
I've done guitars for pretty near every country music star that there is. If you turn on the Nashville network and see a fancy guitar, it was probably inlaid here.
Oh, isn't that great? Merle Haggard.
Oh, we've done a lot of them for Merle.
Quite a few within the last couple of years, right?
Oh yeah. Martin put out a Merle Haggard model guitar, a copy of one that he liked with his signature on it. And he bought a dozen of them to give to his friends and had sent them to me, had me inlay all his friends' names. Like we put Willie Nelson
Of course you did.
everybody, all of his musician friends that he wanted to give these to. So that was just one of the things that I've done. But it's fun.
Did you do a Bob Dylan guitar
Yeah,
with his name?
yeah.
I saw a picture of it. That was kind of cool.
Yeah. I've done, as they say, country and folk and rock and whatever comes
So
in.
your work is everywhere, and probably in many countries too now.
Oh yes, yes. The Japanese are collecting high-end instruments. I talked to you before about market going down and instruments going up. A lot of our high-end stuff goes to Japan, and I know I have.
Isn't that amazing?
Martin Guitars copied this last year. Copied my own personal guitar, and the first 4 of those went to Japan.
No kidding. And I read on the way up here that you try to make a new mandolin every year for yourself. You play it all summer and then you sell it in the fall.
Yep.
Not a bad idea.
Well, it's I like building mandolins. Is something I enjoy doing. They are much more difficult than guitars or anything else that we build. It's just more time intensive, and I don't have time to make a lot of them. But every time I make one, I'll do a little refinement on it, and it gives me a chance to build it the way I want it, play it, be out there, and the wonderful thing, it's like anything else. If people see me playing a mandolin and it sounds good, they give more credit to the mandolin than me. And if they had that mandolin, they could sound good.
Isn't that amazing? But so you started, did you start learning the mandolin right with the guitar way back when?
I played bad mandolin for an awful long time, and I got serious at it 6 or 7 years ago. And it was one of those things that as soon as I decided to be serious about it, it fit. And I haven't looked back. I do mandolin clinics now, and I teach mandolin. And I have had a lot of people telling me that in the past couple of years, please get us a video of your mandolin clinic, because you've got it down to where it's understandable. And I have a method of teaching mandolin that is very easy to understand. And one of these days, I'm going to find somebody with a camera, and we're going to record that.
Oh boy, Calvin! What a great idea, though, because
Yeah.
we know people do a lot of things, a lot of artisans and musicians and teachers, and they always end up doing the video, selling the video on the internet, all over the place, and why not? It dawns on me before we look around and find out how to make guitars and do inlay. And we didn't talk about your education. Where'd you go to high school? You talk about your high school shop teacher.
I went to high school in Messina. I was the last class out of the what we call the Bridges Street School.
The old school.
The old school.
That's where I started my high school career.
And I mean, it was just discouraging, because now they tore down my high school, made a parking lot out of it.
Every one of my old schools is gone. So that's where you went to high school.
And then I had the aspiration of becoming a lifeguard for the rest of my life, because it was so much fun, until my parents found out that that was my aspiration, and they took me by the collar to Canton. And my father was good friends with the dean of the school, and he said to the dean, my boy would really like to be here this fall. And they both laughed, and that's where I went.
You went to Canton,
I
that
went
was
to
called
Canton.
Canton ATC back in those days?
ATC. And the fun part was that when you apply to college 3 weeks before it starts, you don't have much of a choice of curriculum.
Been there, done that.
So I majored in heating and air conditioning technology.
Okay, I love it. So that's where those heated conversations come from.
That's it.
Heating and air conditioning, okay.
At the time I was very young, and it wouldn't have been my pick of schools if I had a choice, because ATC at that time I think had maybe 6 female students, and I didn't have the opportunity to party.
Okay.
That was probably a good thing.
That was probably a good thing. Then what?
But from there, I graduated, and unfortunately back then when you graduated, that meant you automatically had a job, because they placed every student that graduated. And I got a job with GLF, and they were
Boy,
based here.
there's a name from the past.
GLF turned Agway eventually.
Yeah.
And they sent me to their truck driving school. They were going to make a truck driving oil burner serviceman install person out of me. And that lasted from the time college ended until about 3 weeks into that, and it dawned on me that going to school is an awful lot easier than working. So I applied to Oswego and transferred in there and spent the next few years majoring in industrial arts, because what else would I major in? That was my major at that point.
Then what? Then Syracuse,
And then Syracuse University.
where you got your PhD in what?
Oh, in psychology, because it was a minor at Oswego.
Isn't that amazing? I mention all that because who knows what paths we're going to walk down.
And,
And you're like I am. Neither one of us know what we want to be when we grow up. So we try all these different things, and right now you'll be doing this inlay work forever and ever, I guess.
I hope so. I certainly do. I love traveling with the band and plan on doing that as much as I can. In the summers, we're booked. Well, we're already booked 20 weekends next summer.
Are you really?
And I leave here Thursday morning. We come back Sunday night. We take off in the camper, and our band travels as a family. and we just have a wonderful time.
As bluegrass bands, there's something special about bluegrass music and about the people who go to the bluegrass festivals. And we've had a taste of it at several of these festivals, and we like what we see and hear.
Well, the good part about the bluegrass festivals are it's a place where the camaraderie and the music are what people go for.
Yeah.
A lot of our friends are full-time campers. They live in giant motorhomes.
Yep.
Florida in the winter, north in the summer, and the cheapest thing they can do is travel the festival circuit, because for $25 you can go in early in the week and stay till it's time to move on, and you're entertained, and there's this family group that travels. I mean, I know if the festivals I play, I will know 75% of the people there first name basis, and you have your built-in fan club. We all eat together, we laugh together, we play. When we're not on the stage, we're all playing music with all our friends. And
I love that part of it.
Yes.
When we were over in Vermont, this last time, we just walked from trailer to trailer, and they grab a guitar and a banjo and a mandolin, and we were getting tunes wherever we went.
That's what it's all about.
Oh,
And it's such
terrific.
a happy life, and you're not going to get rich at it, but I make enough money to support my hobby. I mean, that's about the fun of it. We're out there enjoying the people, enjoying the music, and the fun part is in our small areas. We can be stars to our friends, because if you're on stage and then get off and go play with everybody, they're all tickled, and when you're on stage, you got them all there cheering for you. So
It's the best
it's
of all worlds, isn't it?
It's a great time. Plus, that generates a lot of inlay and instrument sales.
That's true. It all interlocks, doesn't
So
it?
I have a job that I thoroughly love, that I start, I'm in the shop 7 o'clock in the morning, and I'm apt to be here 7 o'clock at night, and don't want to be anywhere else, because as you look in the other room, there's a half a dozen people here doing inlay, guitar work, and at any moment would stop and play a song. And that's just what we're about.
Before we move, I just want to mention briefly that you talked about not being a star, but we're pleased to watch the progress that the Gibson family, the Gibson brothers have made.
Aren't they wonderful?
And you had an association with them very early in their career.
I ran a large bluegrass festival in Waddington back in the 80s, and I was the first promoter to hire the Gibson brothers into a regular festival circuit. We had, the last year we ran that, we had Bill Monroe was there, Charlie Waller and the Country Gentlemen, and the Gibson brothers. And it was fun to see them then. That was quite a few years back, and they were young and they were good then. And they've been close friends over the years. I've played music with them. We laugh, we travel, we play a lot of the same festival circuit. And one of the jokes was they are beyond good. They are so far out of my league that it's funny. But they needed a mandolin player, and I said they got Mark McGlashan out of Nashville to play for them, and he's one of my idols on mandolin.
He's wonderful.
He's as good as it gets, as far as I'm
He is
concerned.
wonderful.
And I asked him. I said to Eric, why, how come you go all the way down there and you didn't come here? And he looked at me and said, David, you're just too handsome.
Isn't that beautiful?
He said, you draw the attention away from us.
Well, and finally they're getting the national and
Oh,
international
yes.
recognition they deserve.
They
And
deserve,
right now
that's
they're
right.
on top of the heap, and
Yep.
that's really
It's where they
nice
belong. They're
for a North
wonderful.
Country family to have the #1 bluegrass album for a long period of time during the
They
summer.
deserve it.
Yeah.
They have worked harder at that than most people do at any other career. I mean, they gave up teaching careers. They dedicated themselves to this music, and God bless them. They're there.
Galvin and I like
And
the
we're
way
proud of them.
Galvin and I like the way their sister sings too.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
She's great.
The whole family is musical. I mean, that's where it came from. They used to play as children up at Dick's Country Store in the back room, and their grandparents played, and we've all played music together over the years.
It's wonderful. David, it's been a good road you've traveled on. Can you show us a little bit around the
I'd be
shop
happy
and
to.
how you do your work? Let's
I'd
do
be
it.
happy to. Okay.
All right, we're underway.
We're underway again. Well, what we have on this, this kind of a bench that we're using right here are a couple of things. This particular guitar is a guitar that is being made in one of our guitar classes, and it says "not yours" on the front here. It's Kelly Rose, a fellow from Wilmington, is building this one, and this is right from scratch, and going to be a pretty nice guitar. And an example that he's got a little bit of the abalone trim around that. And that will be, he's in the other room now inlaying a fingerboard that's going on that. We can go in and see what he's doing in there.
Do you use woods from this area?
Yes, we do. This top here is spruce, which is local to the Adirondacks. We use Adirondack maple, we use Adirondack spruce. Now this guitar, which I can lift the top right off of, is a Martin guitar that came in with a bad top.
Can I just get the other top?
Yeah, you can if you like.
Go ahead.
And my friend that works with me, Lee Mulverhill, this is one of the projects he's working on. And the guitar, when it came in, the top had warped for, I don't know why, whether it had gotten wet or it's been left in the sun or whatever, but it came in with a top that was all humped in the area my hands were. When the strings were on, this top bowed right up.
No kidding.
And so they sent us the guitar, and this guitar is probably $3,000 retail. So for an awful lot less than throwing away the guitar, we're going to put a new top on it. And of course, because we're a pearl shop, we're going to add a little trim to it too. But that's this is Lee's work. And
How are you, Lee?
I'm fine.
We met you when we came in the door this morning.
It's nice to have you here.
Oh, this is just so much to learn here. Again, we get an education every time we leave home.
It's unbelievable.
This is good
The
stuff.
amount of work that goes into the actual building of everything.
So what actually do you do?
yeah, what do you do?
I don't do the W word.
He doesn't work. Lee retired from Suburban Propane a few years back, and hadn't any woodworking experience and didn't know what he was going to do retired. Showed up at the door one day, said, "Do you think maybe I could build a guitar?" How many years ago was that?
5 yesterday.
5 yesterday.
Oh, anniversary.
And
Oh,
he
wonderful.
has built a lot of guitars. He's become my right-hand person, and he is right now, when something like this comes in, I say, "Lee, put a new top on that." That's the capabilities. I do
Isn't
the
that neat?
inlay, and he does a good portion of the building and a good portion of the repairs. We joked for a lot of years that he was a sander, because when you're building an instrument,
Unreal.
the amount of hand sanding that goes into these between putting it together and getting it finished is, you spend more hours sanding than anything
Do you
else.
really?
About 80% of the time building is
Sanding and sanding and sanding and more.
Sanding and sanding, yeah.
And that was our joke.
I'm
But he-
VP of sanding in the shop.
He was vice president of sanding, and then I promoted him to vice
It's a
president
nice sounding title.
of international sales and marketing.
And you know what? With all these titles, it doesn't affect my income tax at all.
Oh, that's, I noticed that. Oh, that's beautiful. It's a miracle that you guys don't get asthma or something from breathing in all that
What?
dust over the years. It's a good thing you don't smoke cigars in
Up
here.
in the ceiling is a dust eater.
Works good, huh?
Oh, it does. Makes a little noise, so we don't have it on at the moment. But that will filter the air in the shop. And we have a built-in vacuum system not in here, but out in one of the other buildings. I have a giant vacuum. And it's one of those things that's piped in to the shop, and every machine that we have, we turn on the vacuum and it takes the sawdust.
And
So,
your shop here has grown a little bit since you moved here. You knock a wall out here and add a room here.
we do that all, that's continual. Wherever, the business grows, the shop grows. When I first moved to Malone, I needed a place for a shop, and we moved into this small house, and I built the first double story, and it was a good-sized bedroom on the top and a small shop, and that lasted all of not quite a year until I cut a hole in the wall and built this section on, and then we cut a hole in the wall and built that section on, and then there's another section out the other way.
I'm gonna have to buy a lot all the way to Malone.
On the backside. So
But,
how many people besides you two actually work here on a regular basis?
Well, when the school year isn't on, Keith Sloat Dowden, who is one of the local artists, works with me. He's a young fellow who is more talented than I will ever be. And that's the highest compliment I can give this boy. He's 22-ish years old. He came into our door one day, 100 pounds wet, dreadlocks, and said to me, "My mother said you guys would want me."
Very shy.
Looking at his
My
feet.
mother said.
My
yeah.
mother said you guys would want me.
Isn't that-
And I looked at him and I said, I can't imagine
Why?
What are we gonna do with
What
you?
will we do with you? He says, well, I can draw. Oh, can he draw? He is an artist. I mean, this boy, a natural artist who, thank God I kept the door open, because he came in, I said, well, let's sit down and see what you can do. I didn't give him much to go on. And he was here 6 months when Martin Guitars called and said, we are building our 800,000th guitar. We are using the wood from C.F. Martin III, that we called him Grandpa Martin. He passed away a few years ago. We're taking a tree from his front yard, a maple tree.
Oh
and
my
we're going to
gosh,
build a guitar.
come
I'll
on.
get that picture.
Oh,
We want that maple tree on the headstock. We want maple leaves on the fingerboard, and this is for our museum. Keith did the artwork. Keith did the inlay. I didn't do it. It
Come
came out of our
on.
shop. But that's 6 months into
what a
this place.
story.
He is that good. The end of the year came and he says, well, I want to go to school. I said, okay, but remember, you've got a job when school's out. He's going to become a film director in Boston.
Isn't that amazing?
And I keep trying to talk him into a permanent position here. And I hope someday that, you know, he's so good that there's a picture of Keith, there's a picture that doesn't show the maple tree, but he is as fine an individual as I have ever met. And that's no kidding, he's just wonderful.
Did he take art classes, or did he
No.
just have
Yes,
this
in
God
high
given?
school. Just
in high school.
High
Just
school.
in high school.
I met his high school art teacher who thinks the same of him I do.
Isn't that amazing? Every now and again, somebody has that built into their genes.
In this picture, this is the overlay that's going on the headstock of the guitar, and it's glued to a metal sheet so that we could hold it to inlay it. But it's got, you can't see it in the picture, the detail doesn't show, but that tree, you can count the branches and the leaves on it.
On the fingerboard is made up of maple leaves.
And they are so
Out
fine and
out of
beautiful.
maple, you can see the veins in the leaves.
Yeah, he's wonderful.
I said to Keith, Keith, you must be pretty proud of the fact that that's in Martin's museum, aren't you? I guess so. He's unpretentious. just-
Not,
Isn't it beautiful?
no ego, no pretentiousness.
And, I mean, you look at the kid and you'd say, oh my God, what kind of kid was that here? But his values are just unbelievable for
He
this
was
day
brought
and
up in a
age.
family that didn't have a television and had some family values.
He's
That's amazing.
He's an unbelievable boy.
He's well-read, he can discuss any subject with you, and he's a snowboarder, so you know how he dresses.
He has no needs whatsoever. I mean, nothing is beautiful.
Last year, when he left for college, I didn't really realize it because I hadn't been keeping, he never cashed a paycheck. He cashed them all the day before he went to school.
Oh, boy, it must be nice. For those of us who live.
Usually when he leaves, we'll say, do you need anything? Well, last year, when he left, do you need anything, Kiefer? Oh, no, I've got a few checks left.
Yeah.
It's never cashed.
Yeah.
Incredible. So you think he'll be back?
I offered Keith last year, I said, listen, I am getting older, I don't want to do this forever. You stay here, I will give you the business and work for you. And his comment was, oh, I don't think I'd want to own a business.
Oh, I don't want to run a business.
Not at age 22, he doesn't want to run a business as long as there's snow on the slopes. Are you
Yeah.
kidding?
But
So he
he's-
is going to school, college? Where?
Boston. He's
University?
Emerson College
Oh,
for
boy.
film studies. And he's so talented, though.
He'll make you proud, he already has.
He has.
He already
You
has.
have to make him get away from the bench.
Yeah.
for a break. I mean,
That's what it's
his
all
work
about.
ethics are just unreal for this day and age. It's just, you know,
Yeah,
I use
compared to some of my help.
yeah, I don't do that.
The fact is, I use the word passion a lot.
Well, he has a passion for art.
And when you have a passion for something, as you both obviously do, then you don't know when to go home.
No. Well, when we first hired Keith, he said, well, he come in the first day of work, come in the second day of work, then he looked at me and says, I gotta warn you, I ain't coming in tomorrow. And I said, Keith, in case you ever get a real job, you never warn your boss that you ain't coming in. You might ask rather than warning me. He says, well, I started a mural down the street for some friends in their basement. I have to finish that because I started it, so I've got to finish it. And I said, well, can we see it? And he said, oh, sure. We went down on the corner. There's this family that runs, it's closed now, but ran a little convenience store. And in the basement of their house, they made a rec room. And we're talking a cinder block wall, bare cinder block. He transformed that wall into a 4-season art picture, starting with geese flying into a pond, through the leaves changing color to a ski slope. You could see the expression on the geese as they came in.
Without
this
a
is
line, they flew from season to season.
It not only flowed, but everything was meticulous. And this is on cinder block.
Amazing.
He is beyond amazing.
Well, the reason he had to warn you, or he
Yeah.
warned you, was his father couldn't do his work that day, so he had to do it.
Yeah, but it's family values that you can't find
Unreal.
anywhere, and talent you can't find
You'll be
anywhere.
watching him for a while, won't you?
Oh,
For a
yeah.
long time.
He's family here.
Yeah. Isn't it great? But now you have to find another good artist. Well, you do the work yourself. You do a lot of art work yourself.
Yeah.
Did you ever take any besides the industrial art, did you ever take any actual painting classes or anything?
Not painting, but I taught art in high school.
Did you really?
Yeah.
You've done so many things. What else can we see?
Well, we can see a lot of things. We can go in the next room. Actually, there's things here.
There's
a lot of-
whatever you like. 'Cause-
Okay, there's a lot of things like jigs and fixtures
Oh, I
hiding
see.
back, put
Okay.
away. There's guitar pieces all over here.
What do you start with for wood? What does the wood look like before you, how thick is it and so on?
It doesn't matter with us because we have the machinery to take it from thick to thin. And we can go in the back room and look at wood before it's a guitar if you'd like. Let's do that.
Sure.
On the right-hand side, we have the Foget twins from Quebec. Just move that way a little bit, Steve, so you can see what's on your bench. Steve and his father each built a guitar here, and this guitar needs to have some adjustment done. So they come in today. They're going to take the neck out and change the angle that the neck's on it, and that's sounds like a fairly complicated procedure, but because they built the guitar, they know how to do it. Okay, you can move in that way a little, and at the bench straight behind us, our friend Kelly from Wilmington is doing inlay on a fingerboard for a guitar that he built, Kelly Rose. And hiding around the corner is Steve Salazar from Queens, I believe it is, who is in the middle of learning how to do some inlay. And that's on the way to the back room.
It's amazing.
And on this side is where I sit and do whatever it is I'm going to do. Now, filming back here is going to be a challenge. In front of you over
Oh
here.
yeah, wherever you need to go.
Yeah.
Okay, this
We're into the inner sanctum now.
this is all wood storage. And what we have here are guitar tops by the number. And these are tops that have been sanded and what we call a rosette put in them. And there is a whole pile of different things here. We can, if you brought in any guitar that Martin has ever built, we would have the exact replacement top for it. Because I have worked for Martin since the late 60s, and I have hoarded pieces. Every time I'm down at Martin, I bring back more wood. So here's a pretty good supply of tops. Here's guitar backs in varying types of wood and varying different strips in the back. Here's one. When I said we could replace any piece of a guitar, Martin came out with what they called an MTV special.
it had a maple side and a rosewood side, and it was supposed to give you, it was supposed to appeal to the children that watch MTV that needed something different. It's one of those things that I didn't necessarily want to own one of myself, but we fixed a few of them. Guitar necks galore. This is the lining that where you glue the backs and sides together. It's called kerf lining because it's got saw kerfs and it'll bend. These boxes are full of the different kinds of braces that go into a guitar. There's the main X brace in a Martin guitar.
So these are not parts you've made, these are parts you buy somewhere.
One of the things about the guitar building nowadays is that places like Martin are geared up to make necks and braces on machinery that can turn them out so that everyone is exact. And I am capable of making from rough lumber any of these pieces, but economics dictate to us that we use the machine-made pieces, because I can either use this piece out of a machine that I can buy fairly reasonable, or I can spend 3 days making it. Aha! And the only difference is between the machine one and the one I hand make is the machine one will be absolutely the same every single time, and if I want any difference, I can work it into this neck rather than create it from scratch. And I said we can make them from scratch. There's a bandsawed blank that could turn into a neck. We also do a lot with Adirondack spruce. One of the highest valued instrument woods right now, and this is just a piece that's going to be bracing stock. An Adirondack spruce guitar top right now, before it's on the guitar, just the rough wood to make the top is worth about $150.
Wow!
So,
So it's highly priced.
Highly priced, and when we're cutting out tops, any of the pieces too small, I save to make braces out of. So this is a pile of Adirondack spruce that's going to be braces. Here is a mandolin to be. Adirondack spruce and big enough so I can avoid the two knots, book matched in a wedge shape. That will either be a violin or a mandolin. And we go through an awful lot. That was sawn in November 2000.
Isn't that great? And you let it has to sit and cure for a while before you use it?
Yeah. I like to, I will keep wood in here a couple of years anyway. It's dry when I get it. And then I'll keep it a couple of years to get it used to some climate change before I build anything out of it. And I've got several instruments that I'm personally building out in the other room. You can see where I want to build, the high-end things get built late fall and during the winter. I want to build when the humidity is as low as possible so that when these guitars are built, if they dry out, they don't crack. There's no stress in it from being built with too much moisture. The drier I can build, the better I like it.
Who would know that unless you told me? That's amazing.
And if behind you is a compressor that's apt to come on, and I just don't want it to scare you if it does, because it's rather loud. That's why it's way back here.
It's a big one.
Yeah.
But you need a big one.
That we do.
That's wonderful. How many instruments a year do you think you handle through here?
I don't really know. We
Hundreds?
build
Hundreds?
hundreds, yeah. Oh, easy hundreds. We do repair. We're a warranty station for most of the major builders.
Oh, are you really?
Yeah, we're a Martin warranty.
So
a
that's
Gibson
why you
warranty.
got that warped top.
Yeah. So the companies are paying us to do the repairs. Plus we build continually. I mean, there's always instruments going. And I see a lot of guitars.
Before I mentioned the word legacy, and it's everywhere. I mean, I imagine you walk into a store somewhere and see something that you've done and say, whoa, I did that, 1987.
There's, on the floor is fingerboards, you know, that
Oh,
will
yeah.
be. And there's a box of the kerf lining. And this would be neater if we had more, place to stretch it out, but here's a box of mahogany sides.
How do they get bent like that? Is that,
And forms in the other room. They're bent. We use a form and a heater blanket. You wet the wood and put this heater blanket on, which turns the wet to steam, and we can mold them right around the form.
that's amazing. Well, we want to see everything, so.
Okay. Hanging here are the various bindings that go around the outside of the guitars.
Along with a few guns on the rack.
Oh, I used to collect, and I've got that whittled down quite a bit.
Oh, have you?
Yeah.
All right, what's the story on this?
Story here is Kelly Rose took the inlay course, which lasts a week, and the guitar building course, which lasts a week. And got carried away and has been coming back ever since. This is his first major
You
inlay.
gotta be kidding.
Pretty much his own design,
Wow.
and the headstock for the pearl that's going on it is butterflies and flowers, and about as intricate as it's going to get. And that's
Beautiful.
is one of the
Absolutely beautiful.
I am extremely proud of the success stories like Kelly that come out of here. He's putting together a butterfly that's going on the edge of that bridge.
So what, I need to know the process. You have to cut out a design with the tools,
Well,
right?
first of all, this is heavily low technology, high skill. There's how you cut out the designs. It's called a jeweler's saw. The blades are so fine that you can't see the teeth. You can feel them, but you can't see them. And we're cutting. I'm going to move so the camera can come around on this side and see. He's cutting out pieces of shell. This is just a little scrap from where he was cutting. And the saw fits into the board to the pieces on it. And I'll actually cut a piece over there and show you how it's done. But it's all a eye-hand coordination, high skill, low technology. The technology comes when we want to put it in the wood. This is one of the things that I have designed. It's a miniature die grinder, and it's air driven with a base on it that allows us to control it, and I'm going to turn it on. 70,000 RPM, spinning a micro miniature end mill, and this will cut smooth enough so that your only limitations are your ability with your hands.
You could probably do a few fillings too if you wanted to.
Yeah, it's the same similar idea technology, yes. I mean, as I said in the beginning, we were borrowing dental tools and the like, and this is just all of that type of thing adapted to fit our own needs. It's set so that I can control the depth of the cut with the thumb screws, and these micro miniature bits need to have a really high RPM to be able to work well, and you need to use an air pneumatic is the proper term for it, an air tool to get the speed to drive that tool. But that's, as I say, that's one of our own personal little inventions. And at this bench, Steve is learning to. This is a piece of seashell. It's mother of pearl, and he's been cutting out. He was cutting out his name, Salazar. And this is one of the pieces that he was cutting out from. There's the S for Salazar where he was cutting it.
Okay, I got
And
you.
you take a paper pattern, glue it on the shell, and there's the Salazar that he cut. The paper pattern's still on part of it.
I bet you were upset when that Rabinowitz came in with all those syllables.
But a lot of it, like what he's cutting, we just go to the computer and make a print or handwrite it out. Cut it out of the paper, paste it on the shell, and cut it out.
It's
You
amazing.
can be famous now.
Oh yeah, I didn't put the guitars there underneath Salazar's. They have Salazar guitars, but next time.
Next time.
The interesting things that happened today, Steve isn't one of those people that gets up real early in the morning every day to get here on time. When he gets here, he does well, but our joke has been the shop classes start at 8, and Steve, you can set your watch by his being here 1/4 after. So today at 7 o'clock, I'm down in the shop getting things ready, and there's Steve at the door with his parents. He was so excited about what was happening that he called his mom and dad to come up and see. His dad has built a few guitars. His father and his uncle built Spanish guitars, and he was excited enough to talk to them. And they drove up here, drove all night, I guess.
Yeah, came up
7
last
o'clock
night.
in the morning, and they spent the first. They were just left before you people got here this morning.
No
But it
kidding.
was so interesting to have somebody that excited.
I love
So we were pretty tickled to have them
That's
with us.
the
They're
name of the
coming
game.
back. They went home they're not home. They went to get a room to take a nap, and they'll be back this afternoon.
it. I love it. That's great stuff.
The thing with Lee is that being retired, he doesn't have to worry too much and can indulge himself as a hobby. This mandolin is the one that I currently play myself. I built it a little over a year ago. I sold it yesterday,
Oh, did you really?
yeah,
You have to make another one then.
and I'm going to turn it over and show you. This is
Oh.
Adirondack maple.
My.
I have my name.
Yeah, there it is.
And the top of it, the top of this is Adirondack spruce. And it's a
Wonderful sound.
It's loud, and it is what mandolins are supposed to be.
Do you make different shaped mandolins or?
I
Basically
have,
the same?
this is the basis of what they look like. And then we get real fancy.
Oh my.
You'll notice that the theme,
Look at this.
the pattern is one that I use on my own instruments. This is the guitar that Martin copied this year. It's Brazilian rosewood. It is pearl bordered everywhere that there is the pearl border.
Spectacular.
Thank you.
How long would it take you just to do this part?
A couple of days.
What days? Come on.
Well, maybe not
You
that long.
It would take me longer than that just to think about it.
Now you've got a pattern made that you can
You have to
duplicate
make
this?
a pattern first, right?
First you do the drawing. I did draw the pattern out on paper. Then I will take that, make sure that everything fits, cut the pattern into individual pieces, glue those pieces on the shell, cut out the shell, reassemble them on top of the fingerboard, trace around them so I've got where it's going, and then cut all the holes in the fingerboard and glue all the pieces in.
It really sounds simple when he says it in 28 seconds, doesn't it, huh?
Yeah. Well,
This is a talent that's beyond what I can even imagine.
This shell is pale abalone shell. We use abalone, we use mother of pearl, we use paua, and several other different kinds of shell. But this is probably as good a guitar as I will ever make. And it's something I'm real proud of.
Will you keep this one forever, or will you? No, everything's for sale, even the ones that say Nichols on them, huh?
They all say, this says
They all
Nichols
say-
on, but it's inside.
Oh,
You
inside.
have to look
I see it.
in the sound hole.
I see it.
It's something the camera probably can't pick up, but I have inlaid inside the guitar.
Oh,
There's a serial number way up in there and my name. And as I say, I doubt if the camera can pick it up, but it's one of those things where there's no way that could get in there other than to be built first and have the guitar built around it.
around it. That's right.
D497.
Yep. April 97 is when I made it.
Oh.
Ah,
The D is the size of the guitar, dreadnought. And you can see by the case it's a rather special one.
yeah.
Now here's more of a traditional look in a guitar. Still fancier than the average guitar. Pearl bordered, Adirondack spruce top. Traditional Martin, what they call snowflake inlay. and a classic name of the
Oh, yes.
Now this one is different because it's made out of walnut. Black walnut, which this wood would have come from down in the Finger Lakes area. So we're still talking, New York State woods. And it's one that I'm proud of because I taught him to build it. And he's proud of because he did it.
Very proud of it.
When did you make that one?
This is a year old.
About a year? That's beautiful. What would be the difference in sound of the black walnut?
It's a little mellower than the rosewood is. You guys leaving now or going to lunch?
Yes, we've got to get ready for work.
Okay. Anyhow, it's a different sounding instrument. Each of the woods adds their own either brilliance or mellowness. And it's just a nice sounding instrument, wood.
You think of the wood involved, and we talk about craftsmanship in violins, I suppose, more than any other stringed instrument, but it's important in
Oh, yeah,
certainly in
it's
guitar.
definitely. And I've got to take just a second to see if my boy has money for lunch.
Take your
He's going to
time.
lunch. I'm going to steam that joint apart. I'm going to show them how this is done. And in order to do that, I'm going to drill a hole. Down into the neck joint. Actually, I'm going to drill 2 holes down into the neck
Want to show them
joint.
what you're shooting for?
This joint goes together, and I just drill a hole right down in here, behind that neck joint, so that I can run some steam into it. And is this tight? I've got a clamp
No,
on
it's not
here that
tight.
is going to assist me in pushing the neck out.
Okay, guys, I'm going to bring that steam over to the electric oven to show the burn.
Okay, this is hot live steam. So, hot, burn. I'm just bleeding the water out of the steam line.
Okay, we got paper towels all over here. I don't mean to push you out, Steve. But I do.
Oh, go right ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
In short order, that steam will dissolve the glue that's holding the neck in, hopefully. The fingerboard loose, right?
Yeah, keep taking. Burn?
Yeah, burned my foot. There's a burn. There's a small steam leak right there.
Caught on tape, too.
Caught on tape. Like
You
that.
would be amazed at the things we've caught on tape.
You're not gonna show this to OSHA, right?
I'm just wiggling that joint to get it to give up as early as possible.
No, don't cry, John. I don't even wanna look.
I didn't want to look.
John's back there saying,
Don't look while we're doing it.
I gotta drain the water out of this again, so watch your feet.
Now, if we don't show this part, it's because it didn't work.
no, when you hear that neck break, shut it off and rewind.
You don't want to catch anybody crying on tape, do you?
If you don't know how to curse in French,
Whoop.
That's what I'm aiming to hear, is that glue joint breaking loose.
Right.
And hopefully when they loosened the end of the fingerboard before they handed this to me,
John's crying.
John's
I just
crying.
noticed your name.
There we go.
Two people crying and one person that's not, because there is a neck, and what we've done is dissolve all of the glue that held it in. You can hold that.
That's amazing.
So we can get that.
Yeah.
There's 2 clamps over there and a piece of plastic.
That has enough water in here to float a small boat.
There, John, now you can.
They're not being built to be taken apart.
They are built to be taken apart.
Are they?
Yes, that's the whole key to any valuable instrument is definitely built to be taken apart. Clamps.
From in here, right?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I know that.
Glues, and steam will pull them apart.
They say they're water resistant, but,
That's why it took a little bit longer. The old glues were hide glues,
yep.
and they would give up even easier.
So that the top doesn't separate from the block. From the neck block.
But we put so much steam on it that we would have loosened up the joint right here. And while that's cooling, I put clamps on it so that it will not loosen up where I don't want it to. You can see this is called a truss rod, which helps you to adjust the neck. And this is a tenon joint neck rather than a dovetail. There's 2 kinds of neck joints. One is a dovetail that fits in, it uses mechanical force to hold it, and the tenon uses glue. But we can take them apart and take it apart quite cleanly.
Obviously, you did well, and I just held my breath the whole time back.
You think you held
So did I.
I was brain.
I can imagine you were.
I
was
can do
watching.
these. I can do these every day, but you don't do them every day while somebody's filming you. And the time that it's going to go wrong is the time that.
Always. It always is, like a microphone cord way back in the beginning.
Thank you.
Yes.
I have to stop and say thank you, Lord, when it goes well. But there we be.
The trick is not tightening too much,
Oh, yeah.
so that you actually
I didn't
break
want to, as I said, when you heard that click, that's the glue breaking loose in it. And,
it. When was that glued on, would you guess? A long time ago?
it was glued on, if I had the, it was probably dated. When did you build it, John?
Last year, just before Christmas. Yeah, December.
A year ago.
About a year.
He built it then. It just needed to have the neck taken out and re-angled. And as I say, any high-end instrument, you can, the rule of thumb on repairs is I can replace any panel, that is a top, a back, or a side, cheaper than it is to replace an instrument. So if a Martin guitar comes in with somebody put their foot through the top, roughly $600 puts a new top on. And that's an awful lot cheaper than spending $3,000 or $4,000 to replace the guitar.
I understand.
And that brings us, we're just about at the point in the day where there's a shop ritual, where we all gather and go to Chinese lunch.
Chinese lunch is good.
I'm glad you like it, because they say it's a ritual.
Well, that worked very well. So you always have to drill holes
Well, you gotta
to get the steam in.
I gotta figure out a way to get the steam in. The holes that I drill will be covered with the frets when I put the fret back in. We took a fret out of the fingerboard, drilled the holes where that fret was. When I put the fret back in, you don't see the holes. Steve, you gonna put the drill away?
All right, we just about used up all of our time here, but I want to take a look at this. This is your next mandolin.
This is my next mandolin that will be done in another month or so. And it's in the rough. It's got the top fairly well carved. I haven't cut the F-holes in yet. And I've got the binding on. The back is rough carved. And I've got the neck somewhere on the bench here. And this is the way they kind of start life. This one has, it still looks like it's got a long way to go, but there's 3 or 4 weeks work in it to get it to this part, because these tops and backs are all hand carved and meticulously hand carved.
Is that what makes the hump in it?
I carved it.
You carved the
Yeah, see,
hump?
the only bending here is on these sides, and as you can see, the bending these sides is a labor of love because that is such a sharp bend that it's not an easy one to do. And this started out as a 3/4 inch thick board, and any of the curvature here is all carved into it, just as is with the top. All of the curves are carved rather than bent, and the thickness varies as you go across the top. That's how you get the sound out of them.
No idea how many hours you would have in.
Oh, in one of these, I'll have a lot of time. It takes me, hours-wise, I don't know. But the reason I build one mandolin a year is I can putter it through and not have to know how many hours. But they're a lot of fun, and they're a good time, and I like it because I like playing it. This is my next guitar, and it looks awfully dusty because it is. But this one is being built out of mesquite, which is...
Oh, you gotta be kidding. A guitar made out of mesquite?
No.
That's
The
amazing.
first one of the mesquite guitars, I'll show you a finished body in a second. Mesquite is one of our renewable resources. It's a Texas-Mexico wood, and when it's finished, there's a mesquite guitar finished.
Oh my goodness, look at this.
It's an absolutely gorgeous wood.
Oh, beautiful.
A great tone wood, and when you have mesquite for the back and sides, Adirondack spruce for the top, there is no endangered species.
I see that.
Yeah.
Is it good?
Hopefully under where the bridge is going. No endangered rainforest woods, no anything that can be anything other than thought of as earth friendly, because that's one of the nice things about this. We did, first one we did get the National Public Radio, I used woolly mammoth ivory for all the inlays, and mesquite wood and Adirondack spruce.
Wait a minute.
Yeah?
Woolly mammoth ivory?
Yes. The woolly mammoth that has been long since extinct is in the permafrost in Siberia, among other places.
Yeah, we know all about that.
It pokes up through, and we salvage the ivory.
You gotta be kidding.
There
We was trying to just gloss over this woolly
Is
mammoth
that renewable? Is
ivory.
that a renewable resource too?
No, it's not renewable resource, but it's an abundant resource because there's so much of it there.
Who would know that?
Me.
Unless you
It's
told
not
me.
endangered.
And this guitar, this is the one that hit public radio. I put the woolly mammoths on the
look.
fingerboard, and the frets look like timelines, and you could see him coming into existence and becoming extinct.
I love it. I love it. That's absolutely beautiful.
And nothing on that guitar was either endangered species. The pickguard, which used to be turtle shell, is a plastic that is a recreation of celluloid plastic, and nothing on that hurt anything for our environment or
That's really
endangered
classy.
species.
That's cool.
Tell them a little tale of
Oh,
confiscation.
the guitar got bought and shipped overseas. The border people confiscated it because they thought this was turtle shell, endangered species. We had to send a piece of the plastic to them to prove that it was plastic, because it's such a good imitation. And they wanted to know on the ivory. And we sent them samples of each to release it through customs.
Cool. These stories are amazing and they're so bountiful. You, something I didn't mention, and as we're wrapping it up, I want to say that you do write an occasional article for magazines. I've seen,
Oh, yeah.
I've seen pictures of your guitars on numerous music-related magazines. I've seen your byline on a number of articles through the years. Are you currently writing anything now?
Nope.
Nope.
No, I am so behind in inlay and building projects that it's like the old adage, those that can do and
Yeah, I
those that
know.
can't. What'd you do?
Never mind. I just want to look around at some of
Sure.
the carvings. Did your dad do all these?
My father was first, as I said, a gunsmith, and he was a conservation officer. He was shot in the line of duty, and he wound up with only one arm that worked. He had an elbow that was frozen on the other arm, and several fingers amputated. He would hold a block in that left hand that wouldn't move, and carve with his right hand. And
Yes.
he sat in his later years and carved and carved and carved. It was probably more visible against the white wall up there. When he
Just
passed
beautiful
away,
work.
when he passed away, their house was full of these, and I split them with my brother.
Isn't that a neat thing to do? Your brother lives here?
He's in in Indiana now.
Oh. That's pretty neat. So you don't do any bird carving yourself?
I have, but I don't.
You have, not that you don't have enough irons in the fire.
Carves a turkey every Thanksgiving.
Every
No,
Thanksgiving.
we used to, one of the things back in the early years was boat building and decoy carving. I mean, that was just part of the survival thing. We built, my family, my grandparents were sturgeon fishermen, and we built the boats that they used, and they hunted and fished, and so we made all our own decoys, and it was a
So
good
here
time.
we are with guitars and mandolins.
Right.
You've come a long way, baby. Who knows what the next chapter will be, but maybe someday we'll come back and do chapter 2, Dave.
Good,
You're a
good.
fascinating, interesting guy. I thoroughly enjoyed every minute we spent here today.
Your website?
And the website.
You can find us at www.chazy.net and click on either Custom Pearl Inlay or Spare Change, the band. And the fellow that put that up, Sean Rigby, put it up for us, has taken a couple of the guitar building courses, and you can follow through one of our guitar building courses on that. There's pictures of every step along the way.
It's fascinating, but I want to know where the red hat is. I mean,
It's in the back room.
this red, oh, he's actually gonna go and get the red hat. This hat has showed up so many places. I showed it to Calvin on a full page on the way up here, so we get an idea what you really look like. You don't wear that every time you play, do you?
No, no, we
You
don't.
just
We,
for a couple of pictures?
Our band has been known to be a little over the edge.
There
Actually,
it is.
our
It's
band
for
has
real,
been-
folks.
Our band has been known
make that
to
up.
be way over the edge, and every once in a while, we've been known to wear bad hats when we play, or any number of things.
Oh, here's hats over here too.
The normal attire for our band is the worst Hawaiian shirt you can imagine. And the funniest part of it was the banjo player, when we hired him, didn't need to go out and buy a new shirt. He already
Oh,
had
he had one that was perfect, huh?
We couldn't imagine knowing anyone that actually would own one of these other than to wear it in the band.
I love it.
But we're
That's a great hat. That's a classic hat.
we're an
David's gonna
entertainment
join the
group.
Red Hat Society.
Yes, I
Red
may
Hat
join the
Society,
Ladies
did
Red
you
Hat
hear that?
Society.
That'll go over big at the AMVets. I saw your photograph from the AMVets.
Yeah.
Anyway, Dave, thanks again for
Well, thank
having
you.
us here. It's a pleasure to
My
meet
pleasure.
you.
My
I'm
pleasure.
sure the North Country has enjoyed it, and we'll see it over and over again. And yeah, we'll be back maybe on a sunny day.
Good.
Who knows?
Very good.
And who knows where we'll be next time for our little corner.